Order. I call this meeting to order. This is the Standing Committee on Human Resources. I am Chris Palmer, MLA for Kings West and chair of this committee. Welcome, everybody. Today, in addition to reviewing appointments to agencies, boards, and commissions, we will hear from witnesses from the Department of Labour, Skills and Immigration and from the YMCA of Greater Halifax, Dartmouth, regarding support connecting newcomers to the workforce. At this point, I would like to ask everybody to please put your phones to silent mode or make sure they're turned off as a little gentle reminder. I would now ask the committee members, beginning to my left here with Ms. Sheehy Richard, to please introduce themselves for the record by stating their name and their constituency.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Melissa Sheehy Richard, the MLA for Hants West.
Morning, everyone. Dave Ritzie, MLA for Truro Bible Hill, Millbrook, Salmon River.
Good morning. Johnny McDonald, MLA for Hants East. Stop me.
Morning, everyone. Nolan Young, MLA for Shelburne County.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Susie Hanson, MLA for Halifax Needham.
Morning, Ali Doali, Halifax Armdale.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome for bringing your time. My name is Tony Ince, and I'm the MLA for Cole Harbour.
Thank you, everybody. And for the purpose of Hansard, I also recognize the presence of Legislative Counsel Gordon Hebb to my right and Legislative Committee Clerk Judy Kavanagh to my left. So we'd like to ask the witnesses to indulge us for a couple of minutes. We have to attend to a bit of committee business here in our Human Resources Committee. And we will begin with agencies, boards, and commissions appointments. And may I call on MLA Young to proceed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that for the Department of Community Services, I move that Judy Heffern be appointed to the member of the Management Corporation of the Kings Regional Rehabilitation Centre.
There's a motion on the floor. Any discussion? All those in favour, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. MLA Young.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move that Kent Rogers be appointed member of the board of the Nova Scotia College of Chiropractors.
All those in favour, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. MLA Young.
I move for the Department of Health and Wellness, I move that Paulette Anderson, Brian Murray, Betty Thomas be appointed non-denturist members of the Denturists Licensing Board.
All those in favour, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. MLA Young.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move that Marion Ripley be appointed the public representative of the Board of Directors of the Nova Scotia College of Dispensing Opticians.
All those in favour, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. MLA Young.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move that Monica Moriarty, Lori Peters, and Philip Vino be appointed members of the board of the Nova Scotia College of Medical Laboratory Technologists.
All those in favour, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. MLA Young.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move that Alana Baxter and Robin I'm going to pronounce Schleif, might pronounce that wrong, be appointed public representatives of the board of the Nova Scotia Colleges of Nursing.
All those in favour, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. MLA Young.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move that Gregory Phoebens and David Melvin be appointed members of the Provincial Dental Board of Nova Scotia.
All those in favour, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion is carried. MLA Young.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move that Francisca Carone and Phoebe Mandry be appointed public representatives of the Nova Scotia Board of Examiners in Psychology.
All those in favour, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion is carried. And MLA Young.
For the Department of Justice, I move that Linda Campbell be appointed member of the Accessibility Advisory Board.
And all those in favour, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And we will just attend to one other piece of committee business before we begin our questioning this afternoon with our witnesses, and that is a request made by, in our January meeting, that our January meeting will be on skilled labor shortages and impact on critical infrastructure in Nova Scotia. The witnesses will be from organizations listed at the bottom of today's agenda that everyone has. The change is the approved witness for NSSE is Jill Provo, Vice President, Academic and Equity. She has asked whether her colleague Tom Gunn, Dean of the School of Trades and Transportation, may attend in her place if she's not able to. So does the committee agree to this?
Yes.
Where we have general agreement, that is official. So our committee will now change the witness to Tom Gunn. Thank you, and thank you, witnesses, for indulging us to do that bit of business. Any other business we have at the end, we will, as a committee, will ask for that after our witnesses have spoken today. So today is our topic is supporting connecting newcomers to the workforce, and I'd like to welcome all our witnesses to our committee today. And I would like to ask you all to introduce yourself, starting on my left here, and to all four of you introduce yourselves, and then we'll come back to everybody to see if they'd like to give an opening statement. So please introduce yourselves.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Lesperance. I'm the Senior Executive Director of Immigration and Population Growth with Labor, Skills and Immigration.
Morning. Ava Czapalay. I'm the Deputy Minister with Labor, Skills and Immigration.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Inhae Park. I'm with YMCA of Greater Halifax and Dartmouth Immigrant Services as a Provincial Outreach Manager.
And I'm David Tharmaratnam. I'm the Chief Operating Officer with YMCA of Greater Halifax, Dartmouth.
Thank you, everybody. And I'd like to begin with Ms. Lesperance, if you'd like to open up with any opening comments, or anybody that would like to go in from my left to right. So, Ms. Czapalay. Ms. Czapalay?
Good morning. I'm very happy to be here with my colleague Jennifer Lesperance, the Senior Executive Director for Immigration and Population Growth, and I'm also happy to have our partners from the YMCA join us this morning. The role the YMCA plays to help set up newcomers for success in our communities is key to building on the growth that we're seeing across the province. I want to start by sharing a short story of someone we met during our recent recruitment mission to Paris and Morocco, where we promoted Nova Scotia for what it is, a fantastic place to study, work, live, and play, and grow. And prior to the Destination Canada event in Paris and Morocco, we did a labour market priority draw through the Federal Express Entry Program. As a result of the draw, we sent invitations to 150 eligible Francophones. A few weeks later, at the recruitment event in Morocco, we saw hundreds of people, and one of them was Tarek, an architect who had received one of our invitations. I wish I could express the joy in Tarek's expression when he approached us at our booth. He was so excited to know that he had a chance to make Nova Scotia his new home. We're glad to share that we're working now with partners here to help Tarek secure a job offer. Each newcomer has unique experiences. Tarek's story was one of many that left us feeling nothing short of inspired. As many of you know, government is committed to growing our province to 2 million people by 2060. According to the population clock, the Stats Canada population clock, since hitting our population milestone of 1 million people last December, Nova Scotia has grown by another estimated 30,000 people. Part of the work we do to retain newcomers is making sure they're linked to the things that will help ensure they stay, like employment opportunities, community supports, and family connections. I'd like to share with you some examples of programs and services that we have to connect newcomers to Nova Scotia's workforce. Through our economic-based immigration programs, newcomers arrive in Nova Scotia with a job offer in hand, ready to fill our labour needs and contribute to Nova Scotia's bright future. When newcomers arrive with their families, they come with the same aspirations that any other family would, to live, work, and thrive. Part of the work done by our settlement services is to provide wraparound supports for all family members, like connecting spouses to work, connecting children to schools, and other supports like language training and connections to community. Through our Nova Scotia Works providers, we're focused on connecting people to jobs and jobs to people. You'll know that we have more than 50 Nova Scotia Works centres across Nova Scotia that deliver employment and career services. No matter where people find themselves in life or in the job search process, there are passionate staff in every region who can help connect people to meaningful work. We also continue to host job fairs all over the province through Nova Scotia Works, all with employers eager to hire the talent they need for their businesses. And in July, our Immigration and Population Growth Branch hosted a one-stop job fair that connected newcomers to employers in a variety of sectors. We had over 40 employers and 476 registered attendees. And that day, several newcomers were given job offers on the spot. We're focused on attracting the talent we need to support our healthcare sector and to grow our skilled trades sector, people who will build houses and create the infrastructure that we need to support our growing population. Our department includes the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency, which supports us in matching newcomers with skilled trades to employers looking for trades workers. This committee has already heard about our marketing campaign that's out right now in other jurisdictions in Canada, aimed at attracting those working in healthcare and the skilled trades. This campaign has been very successful in generating over 100 million impressions and over 500,000 website visits. It's great news. People are looking to come here. The campaign also promotes our More Opportunity for Skilled Trades tax refund. It goes by the acronym MOST, for skilled trades workers who are under the age of 30. And from the website liveinnovascotia.com, people can connect with our 6 navigators. They work with newcomers and communities throughout Nova Scotia to help people understand what kinds of work opportunities and supports exist in different regions. Our navigators have responded to more than 900 inquiries so far, and I'm happy to say that those inquiries keep coming. We know that retention is an important component to population growth. Simply put, newcomers need to feel a sense of belonging in their communities and in their workplaces in order to stay. To help employers build welcoming and inclusive work environments, the department has developed the Welcoming Workplaces Toolkit. The toolkit is offered free online through Nova Scotia Works and can help businesses attract and retain talent. Our settlement service providers understand how critical welcoming workplaces and welcoming communities are to retaining newcomers, and our department understands the critical role settlement service providers play too. In 2023, we will continue to support settlement service providers like ISANS and the YMCA who help families find success wherever they choose to settle in the province. Other community-based partners like municipalities, chambers of commerce, business development groups, regional enterprise networks, Nova Scotia Community College and the universities, and sector councils also support this work. It takes all of us working together to help people achieve the kind of personal success that translates into provincial success. So, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I know we can make tremendous progress by working together to not only make people feel welcome in Nova Scotia, but to connect them to the employment opportunities here that they need to thrive. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Czapalay. Ms. Park, do you have any opening comments you'd like to offer, or Mr. Tharmaratnam?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members, for the invitation to speak today and share some of the wonderful work of the YMCA. The YMCA of Greater Halifax, Dartmouth has been around for over 160 years, providing wraparound service to all Nova Scotians. We provide childcare and empower youth. We offer summer camps and develop student athletes. We offer inclusive health and fitness and support seniors to age well. We connect employers to future employees and newcomers to their communities. At the YMCA, we are helping to build healthy communities through the power of belonging. As a multi-service organization, the YMCA has many connection points with newcomers. Beyond assessments and referrals, programs and interventions, there are several stories, like the newcomer youth who dropped in for basketball at the Community Y, to who was engaged by our child and youth team, connected to our immigration staff, and now attends Saturday study skills to get the academic support he needs to excel in school. More directly, our Y Immigration Service has been around for over 30 years and provides expertise in settlements in communities across Nova Scotia. We know when newcomers feel welcomed and connected, when their children feel safe, settled, and engaged, when their families can participate and contribute, they stay in the communities they choose. We provide several programs and services to meet this mission. Our school settlement program ensures children and their families are oriented, have the language and academic supports. The staff ensure newcomers are connected to community events, recreational activities, and can make friends in a meaningful way. our HIPPY program, which supports vulnerable and isolated newcomer mothers at a critical preschool stage, empowering them and their children for future success. More recently, our mobile crisis team adapted to be at the forefront in supporting Ukrainian nationals fleeing the war. Working with our partners and backed by the department, we have supported the transition from airplanes at Stanfield Airport into communities across the province. I also want to highlight the innovative work of our team in creating nationally recognized programs like the gender-based violence program and the 2SL LGBTQIA+ newcomer program. I cannot underestimate the impact our staff have in welcoming newcomers and creating a more inclusive Nova Scotia. Before I talk about our rural regionalized settlement services through the Y-Reach program, I would like to thank and acknowledge the support, both federally and provincially, that has allowed us to continue to do this work. The support has been vital to ensuring that our services are not simply an extension of our HRM office, but the services are offered across the province in a meaningful way where we are able to connect with clients locally in their new communities. Although only a small portion of the funding is related to direct employment support, through this funding, we were able to establish innovative programs like SPELL, which provides workplace-specific language training. Delivered on site, it allows employees to gain fluency, build confidence, and obtain the awareness of workplace communication practices. Our focus is settlement of newcomers, and we recognize labor market contribution is a key factor in this. Our staff often coach newcomers through interview prep, resume writing, job searches. However, their greatest impact is connecting with employers in the area and supporting them beyond a warm referral. They also work closely with our partners in the employment sector, like Nova Scotia Works, to build on local resources and the capacity in the community. Our Y immigration and settlement staff are often the only settlement-specific person in these small communities, and they work collaboratively to build creative solutions to meet the demands of our clients. For example, in the Valley, when transportation was a concern for some newcomers seeking seasonal employment, our Y settlement staff resourced several bikes, took the time to teach them how to cycle to and from their employer. Our team is committed to providing in-person, accessible, client-centered support that is community-based. As one of our newcomer staff in Truro highlighted, when I see services that I need in my community, that's what makes me want to stay. In closing, I would like to leave you with this story. A family who arrived in the midst of the Syrian crisis to Pictou County was looking to relocate to Toronto. Our staff collaborated with our partners to find meaningful employment. They provided language training opportunities. They supported their children to get the access to recreational activities and summer camps. This family is now a staple in the community, and the mother proudly states, "My children may leave for Halifax one day, but you will find me here because this is my home now." I hope you will recognize that the YMCA is more than connecting newcomers to the workforce. We are a multidisciplinary organization that provides wraparound settlement to newcomers and their families. As we look to build a stronger Nova Scotia, successful settlement, participation, and contribution of newcomers will lead to greater retention in our workforce across the province. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Tharmaratnam. We will now open up with our question and answer period. It is the protocol of this committee that we do by show of hands. I will make a list of questioners, and then each of the members will be asking questions as I recognize them. I would like to ask the witnesses to please wait till you're recognized before you start to speak for the microphone. And I would like to ask Mr. Tharmaratnam if I could ask you to move your microphone more to in front of your face a little bit more. As you can tell, we have a lot of bit of background noise happening today, so that'll help with legislative TV as well, so we have a good signal on you. So we will now begin with and we'll probably do questioning until 2:45. Really? Sorry. I was thinking this was a 1 o'clock meeting. Sorry, used to 1 o'clock meetings, I apologize. We will do questioning until 10:45. You didn't know that, did you? You're going to be here a little longer today. So we will begin with our question and answer period, and I recognize MLA Hanson first, and we'll do a running order from there. So MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to say thanks so much for being here today, and as well, I appreciate the work that the YMCA does for all people in community, but as well, I'm glad that we're working together to make it better for everyone. I have a few questions, but this one is in particular about healthcare, and one critical hurdle for newcomers to Nova Scotia is that they're not guaranteed they will have access to public health insurance, and this leaves a significant group of people unable to access health care. People who have not yet been granted permanent residency, babies born to Nova Scotia to parents who are not eligible for MSI, children and spouses of people who have been granted refugee status but who themselves were excluded, and temporary foreign workers. In Nova Scotia, migrant workers must have a 1-year work permit to be eligible for MSI. Workers under SAWP are not eligible because their contracts are only up to 8 months. Kieran Burnett came to Canada from Jamaica in April through the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program. After 2 months, she fell ill and was unable to work. She was diagnosed with cancer, which required 2 surgeries, and her doctor advised her to stay in Canada to undergo life-saving treatments, but she does not have health insurance. So I mentioned this in the House, how important MSI coverage is for all folks that come here. And I'm just wondering, this is to the YMCA, can you comment on whether you think these changes are needed to the health services in Nova Scotia? I mean, the department can answer if they'd like to.
So who would? So we'll pass this on to Ms. L'Esperance. Okay, Ms. L'Esperance.
Thank you for the question. As you can appreciate, Department of Health would be the people to talk about the MSI rules, but I can give you a little bit of information as I understand it in terms of who's eligible and who is not. You're correct in terms of the 1-year work permit requirement for MSI coverage. So our programs support economic immigrants who come with a permanent job offer. They would then be supported with a work permit, likely at least for 2 years, and so they would be covered for MSI with them and their families. Refugees as well come with a permanent resident status, so they would also be eligible for MSI with their families. The temporary worker program is a Federal Service Canada program, and they allow people on shorter work terms to come, shorter work permits to come that would be less than 1 year. And my understanding is that it does need to be a 1-year work permit to be eligible for MSI, and employers are committing to providing the health care coverage when they're supporting employers to come with them. So I'm not familiar with the particular circumstance that you mentioned, but it is a conversation that we continue to have with our health colleagues.
Thank you. And MLA Hansen for a follow-up.
Thank you for that. And I do understand the differences between obviously provincial and federal. But I'm just wondering, because we are trying to grow the population, and most of those folks, they end up staying here, and they, have families here, they marry here, and they're still finding it hard to be able to access those services. So, I mean, provincially, is there a way that we could be doing better at making sure that these folks that do stay because of family and because of marriage have access to those services immediately?
Ms. L'Esperance?
Question. It is something that of course we want everyone to be covered in the way that they need to be with the health care that they need. One good example of some great collaboration that's happened around healthcare is for our recent Ukraine arrivals. So anyone arriving from Ukraine, they are on a temporary authorization to travel. So it's called the Canada-Ukraine Emergency Travel Authorization. And that type of travel authorization has never in the past we've never had it. And therefore there was no provision for healthcare with that. But we worked with our colleagues with health. And now anyone arriving on that is eligible for MSI. And in fact, more than 2,000 people arriving from Ukraine have applied with their families to get MSI coverage, and that is now eligible. So lots of great conversations happening to ensure that people are covered the way that they need to be.
Thank you. MLA Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As many of you know, I'm a tradesperson, I'm a Red Seal tradesperson, worked in the trades for years. Touted in NSCC, I know there's a tradespeople are in demand in Nova Scotia's labour force. So I'm just wondering, for the millions of people that may be tuned in right now watching, could you tell us if there's any work connecting newcomers to apprenticeship? Connecting newcomers to apprenticeship opportunities.
Ms. Czapalay?
And invite the Y to follow with any specific programming that they might be aware of. But thank you very much. And this group will know for sure that we've had a concentrated marketing campaign targeting skilled trades workers and healthcare workers. It's been a really successful campaign. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, over 100 million impressions. Tells you the power of social media. But also, more importantly, our navigators are fielding inquiries from skilled trades workers across Canada saying that we want to come to Nova Scotia and practice our trade in Nova Scotia. And to date, we've had over 900 inquiries from people who are seriously looking at coming here. So for skilled trades workers, we say, those who are watching and beyond, we say we have jobs here in Nova Scotia, and we have jobs in communities throughout Nova Scotia. We want people to come here with their skills job ready, because the work is here and employers are ready to hire. And so the government, for instance, has added an incentive, the MOST program, which is a tax incentive for 30-year-old and younger trades workers, just to say an extra welcome. And then we want them to look at communities throughout Nova Scotia and consider perhaps opportunities outside of urban areas, and rural Nova Scotia needs the workers as well. So I'll just ask Jen or our colleagues from the Y if they want to contribute with some specific programs that might be in place for trades workers.
I'll start.
Ms. Lesperance?
Yeah, thank you. ISANS is another settlement organization, and they do have specific bridging programs for skilled trades and people that support the construction industry. So there's been lots of success there, which has been fantastic. And I did want to share one story that came out of our campaign attracting skilled trades workers. So there was a mechanic in Ontario that saw our ads. They contacted our navigators, and they are now living in Beaverbank, and the gentleman is a mechanic for trucks and cars in Beaverbank, and was specifically set up with the apprenticeship agency to make that a connection to an employer to enter apprenticeship and work as a mechanic in Nova Scotia, and that was a direct result from our campaign. Yeah.
Ms. Park?
So as Thivjan mentioned that we do provide the variety of programs in Halifax, and that include the employment navigation, and we have a small team, and that include job search. The services include job search, resume writing, interview practice, and organizing job fairs, mini job fairs with a variety of employers, and employment-related workshops and information sessions. Outside of HRM, that we have YDH settlement staff, then to provide the settlement and support, and oftentimes they are the only one person, and then so therefore they provide a wide range of service that include the employment support that are similar to the ones as mentioned. So what we do is that the settlement staff oftentimes in their local community has direct contact with employers through their AIP work, and then previous contacts and connections, so that the employer reach out to the our settlement staff directly and to looking for their employee. As well, we work with the community partners and collaborate with the local immigrant services and provide warm referrals and connect the newcomers to any training opportunities or the employment opportunities available in a local market, because they have specialties and expertise. And we also have great partners like ISANS and other organizations to have a specialized program, so that we make a referral to those newcomers and make sure that they're aware of those services and programs available to them, so that we make those kind of referrals to them so that they can get the support that they need. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Tharmaratnam.
And I'll just close on this story. I know in Pictou County, there were several Syrian refugees who came through the crisis who had trades background. And one example is a painter who, through the work of the Y and the settlement staff connecting with him about some of the experiences that he had, it was about trying to help him get to a base level of language so that he could get the employment opportunities within the community. And now he's successfully employed, working for a company and thriving in the community. So I think that's been a lot of the work. Is we know that when newcomers are coming to Nova Scotia, they might have some skills, they might have had worked in the trades, it might not have had the formal titles or the formal, but they've had a level of training, and it's about us trying to bridge that gap, and that's kind of the work that we've done in rural communities to try and define those connections.
Thank you to all of you for your answers. MLA Ince.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming. My question will be to the YMCA. The Auditor General report outlined that the department relies on service providers, such as the YMCA, to determine settlement needs for immigrants. The new immigration goals will clearly increase the department's reliance on people like yourself. What will you need from this government in order to expand your services?
So who would like to take that answer for? Okay, Mr. Tharmaratnam.
I think just the continued support. I think we have a great relationship with the department, and we've been very forthcoming, and we've had a great rapport in kind of addressing some of the concerns and some of the successes that we've had. And so it's just the continuation of the relationship that we have, and to expand on the services that we can provide that meets the labor market goals and the population growth goals.
MLA Ince for follow-up.
You had mentioned those individuals who are coming that may have the skills. Could you just sort of highlight a little bit more on those that gap that you're trying to bridge? Like they may have some of those apprenticeship skills or some of the skills that may be in line with what we need here. How are you bridging that gap?
Mr. Tharmaratnam.
Yeah, I think the success of our staff and the success of the Y is in the community connection and having the people on the ground in these communities working with the local employers. A lot of the times it is that connection piece of a newcomer comes into a community, but they don't necessarily know who to reach out to, where to find the employment. Beyond just writing up a resume, it's knowing how to walk into an employer's door and say, I have the skills and I can work for you. So I think that is the secret sauce to our success, is that we have people working in these communities who can bring the newcomer with that skill set to the employer that needs the skill set.
Ms. Park?
And also that a successful settlement and integration and then retention goes beyond with a principal applicant with a job offers and employment. And we need to make, at the YMCA, that we support the family as a unit. That because the principal applicant knows that their children are doing well in school, they get involved, their spouse get a language training they need, and then all the families that in the family is getting a support what they need, and they are doing very well, then they tend to stay longer in the community that they are calling, and get a sense of belonging, and they're calling to the place that they are calling home. And this is a very integral part of this settlement and integration. And then settlement workers across the province work very hard to ensure that the newcomers get the support they need, as well as build the capacity of the community to be more welcoming and inclusive.
Ms. Czapalay?
Wanted to mention that our apprenticeship agency funds the Trades Practical Assessment Program, and that is administered by ISANS. This program provides those entering Nova Scotia with trades experience the opportunity to be placed with a trades employer for 3 months with wages paid by the program. And this program reduces barriers that some employers may feel when hiring someone who is internationally trained, and it also provides a newcomer with no experience in a workplace. And we do know that many participants continue to be employed well beyond the 3 months of the program.
Thank you very much. MLA Sheehy Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was kind of leading into my question because I was looking at it, and we know that the labor needs vary around the whole province. And when you spoke about that, can you tell us a bit more about the services that are available to newcomers so that they can build on their skills once they get here and transition careers, maybe stepping stones up the ladder, so to speak?
Ms. Lesperance?
Thank you for the question. There are many, many programs that we fund and capacity that we build throughout the province for newcomers to be able to work and thrive in communities and workplaces. Again, most of the newcomers that come to Nova Scotia come where the family, the principal applicant, has a job and is ready to come and work. But as Inhae has pointed out, making sure that the full family is supported is really important as well. I will point out one program that has been a great success. ISANS has a 6-week work placement program. And so those community connections and employer connections can't be understated. All of us have a professional network of some sort, and newcomers come to a new place likely without that professional network. They may have an employer, but maybe not a network. So anyone who does not have that first Canadian experience can get a 6-week unpaid work placement with an employer. And we heard there was a person who's actually currently with the Ukrainian Congress. She came prior to the current situation, but she was able to go through this program, get a professional network. The employer got additional supports for subsidies and wage support, was kept on longer, and then found a permanent program or a permanent employment. The province wants to be a leader in this space, so the province has actually set up the similar program within the provincial government where ISANS candidates can come and work with the provincial government paid for 6 weeks. And we've had some really great success from that. So we at Immigration and Population Growth provided a paid placement for someone for 6 weeks. She was so wonderful that she's still working with us today, and I hope she stays forever. I know there was another individual at another department who got the 6 weeks of paid work placement. They did not have a permanent position to put her in, but that deputy minister called me and said, do you have anything over there? They're really great. And so for someone who's brand new to Nova Scotia, brand new to Canada, and this is their first Canadian work experience, they now have resume with government experience on it, and they have a network, and they have connections. They have a deputy minister vouching for them, saying this person is really fantastic. So showing that leadership for employers to provide those connectivities for newcomers is a really important part of what we do as well.
Thank you very much. Oh, Ms. Park.
To add that, we have great examples of partnering with employers, and we have a program called SPAR, which is Sector Partnership for Enhanced Language Learning, that we started with the healthcare sector that provide enhanced language learning, workplace enhanced language for the CCAs. Oftentimes, these CCAs, internationally educated nurses, that long-term care facility across Nova Scotia hire these people. And then their career goal is to become a nurse or a LPN, right? So that we provide their workplace English so that they can have that workplace, successful workplace success, as well as help them to navigate to be how to upgrade their skills to achieve their career goals to become a nurse. So we provide study groups, we provide workshops with a variety of guest speakers coming in the program. It has been very successful, and then the IPG has been a great partner to support our work with this population, and we expanded to another sector now, that including the manufacturing company, so that we have a group of newcomers working that from a very low level English to higher level. And we got a great feedback from the employers. They want to see, and they see that their employees, the English is improving, and their confidence is building, and they're moving toward their career goals to be the RN or LPN. And The other example is in the SPED program is that we have this project called EMPP project, which is the Employment Mobility Pathway Project. They are the CCAs coming to they're refugees coming with a skilled worker working at the long-term care facility, and actually they are participating in this SPED program as well, because they are the internationally trained nurses. So those are some of the examples.
Thank you very much. MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to start by thanking all of you folks for what you did when the Ukrainian issue happened, and you guys were able to mobilize, which is perfect. And I just have a question regarding that, which is, as it's been mentioned, it's very important for newcomers to actually feel welcomed wherever they're going to be moved into, because if they're not welcome there, they're not going to stay. So for me, can you share with us a bit of the ways in which we are supporting Ukrainian nationals in their integration into Nova Scotia? And you don't have to say with just in Ukrainian, and I will let the Deputy Minister decide who.
MLA, sorry. Ms. Czapalay.
Perhaps I'll start and then invite my colleague Jen Lesperance to elaborate. But I thank you very much for emphasizing the importance of the welcome. And as my colleague mentioned, this was a unique situation for us because we had Ukrainians arriving who had a lot of needs, but were arriving much the same as any of us around the table would arrive in a country. You just kind of walk in, right? Their authorization just allowed them to come in not as refugees but as travelers. So the job one was making sure that we had people and systems available to kind of harness the welcome that Nova Scotians wanted to provide. And so we quickly reached out to the Y to help assist us with coordinating the needs of our Ukrainian arrivals with the help that Nova Scotians wanted to offer. And we worked with the Atlantic chapter of the Ukraine-Canadian Congress as well. And a number of other partners jumped in, including ISANS. And we have a welcome booth at the airport. Maybe some of you have seen that. But we really initially wanted to say to people as they arrived, welcome, we want you here and we want to support you. And also we recognize that you've had a very, very difficult time. And wherever you are, we want to help you. So you don't necessarily have to decide this minute that you want to stay. We want to help you where you are. You will have seen on June 2nd, we welcomed the flight from the Ukraine, a chartered flight, and the Premier and Minister Balser and Minister Fraser were there, and I'll say the Premier and Minister Balser greeted every single arrival, every single one. And I think you were there too, MLA McDonald, and it was a long process getting those folks off the plane and sorted out. But what struck us is that most people arrive with very, very little, very, very little. And so it became very apparent that there were very complex requirements needed to support this group of individuals. And we know today that we have more than 2,000 Ukrainians who have applied for MSI here in Nova Scotia. So that's our best way of understanding how many are here. And they're settled in communities throughout the province. So I'll ask Ms. Lesperance to elaborate on some of the specifics around what we've done, because I think some of the welcomes supports that we've offered to Ukrainians will be translated into supporting other arrivals.
Ms. Lesperance.
Sure, and I will be brief to give the Y some time. They've been our lead in the coordinating portion of this and have done a fantastic job of making sure that not only are they providing services, but also bringing any service requirements to light. Because like I said, we've never, this type of authorization for travel has never happened before. There's no place where people have to declare that they're coming to Nova Scotia before they come. So that welcome booth, and imagine people going there saying, I've arrived and I don't have food or a place to stay is really our best chance to provide those services. We've also set up a website where people can register, employers can register, people who would like to support can register. I think the best thing that the province has done, though, is be coordinated, not in a siloed department by department sense, but we have a multi-department working group who really looks at, for example, are the people arriving eligible for healthcare? No, so let's change those policies to make that happen. Can they get childcare if the parents would like to work, and if they're able to work? They need childcare, and so how can we make sure that that support is available? Community services. So there's community services supports that are required, and they have been in lockstep with us, making sure that they can onboard anyone that needs community services support. So from a provincial point of view, making sure that we have that coordination has been really integral, and then having partners such as the Ukrainian Congress, ISANS, and particularly the YMCA who've provided that coordination has been really, really key. So I'll let you talk about some of the specifics.
Mr. Tharmaratnam.
Yeah, so I think, like I said in the opening remarks, like we've been at the forefront, whether it was helping people, welcome people at the airport, to helping them settle in the communities that they choose to go to. And similarly, I think one of the benefits of the YMCA through the supporting of the Ukrainians has been our collaboration, not only to work within our departments, whether it's like they needed a gym pass to kind of blow off some steam, or whether they're going to Pictou County or the South Shore and they needed to get connected to the YMCAs down there. So I think our Ys across Nova Scotia have been great in kind of bringing together ourselves to kind of help with this crisis. And then beyond that, I mean, Inhae can kind of talk about some of the direct supports that our immigration team has provided, but I do want to just give a quick shout out because I think the mobile crisis response team within the Y Immigration Services has really done a great job in kind of coming together and dealing with this crisis and then taking all the learnings from it. And so if any of these things were to come in the future, that we have a baseline to kind of go back from as well.
Ms. Park?
Thank you. It's as Jennifer, as Franz mentioned, that we've been partnering with the province to respond to the Ukrainian arrivals to the Nova Scotia since I think April. And to add the what has been said is that we do have 10 settlement hubs across Nova Scotia and over 20 different language instruction sites. So we are placed in the location that where newcomers can access that's convenient and comfortable for them. So we work very closely with our staff across the province to respond to the Ukrainian arrivals. That could be either there on the community meetings to talk about any Ukrainian related support and provide practical assistance that includes one-on-one settlement support, invite them to the group activities they are organizing, and then provide on-site school settlement support for the children and youth so they make sure they are supported and parents are happy with that. And then we work closely with the community organizations to co-share the programming. We'll work with the Family Resource Center, library to provide the conversation groups or any family-related activities. We do the co-planned events so that organize welcoming community initiative that happening in the community. And then it's International Cafe in the Valley or Embrace Festival in the Truro. They all, our YDT settlement staff is all involved in all those kind of community initiative. Also, our YDT settlement staff does awareness raising sessions and as a part of the building welcoming a more inclusive community so that they do, going to the meetings and events and then talk about what kind of settlement services that are available in their community, as well as talk about the benefit of immigration and then barriers and challenges that immigrants face that include, of course, the Ukrainian. Another initiative we take on through this initiative is that we are involved in a national steering committee meeting, also the weekly the stakeholder meeting that the province is organizing. there are 18 different settlement organizations in Nova Scotia, so that we reach out to all of them and then bring all together and have us at all these service provider organization meetings. I think we have done 4 times. And then we share the updates, what's happening in a national level, regional level, and then locally. And then we want to hear from what's happening from their own community as well, so that we share those things and we troubleshooting and then share the resources, and then and just being connected, so that this has been going on. Yes.
Thank you for your response. MLA Ritzy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So our province continues to grow our population. It's important to plan ahead to support those who are already here, as well as newcomers settling in. Can you tell us a bit of the ways in which implementing the Auditor General recommendations on immigration and population growth aims to provide these supports?
Ms. Czapalay.
Thanks very much for the question, and for sure retention of newcomers, immigrants, and Nova Scotians are key features of our population growth strategy. And so making sure, first of all, that newcomers, both immigrants and people from elsewhere in Canada, feel welcome and well settled is a key component. Immigration and population growth is a very nice fit with our department, Labour, Skills and Immigration, because we also have our Skills and Learning branch, which supports people connecting to work in Nova Scotia. And so retaining Nova Scotians, retaining youth is another priority. And I've mentioned to this committee before, I think, that our youth population increased for the first time last year and increased again this year. So we are retaining youth, and we want to make sure we retain youth throughout Nova Scotia. And so we're working hard to ensure that youth see a pathway to employment and a future for themselves in all communities. So similar to what we've said about immigration and newcomers, we want to make sure that our youth feel connected to employers. And so with our Nova Scotia Works offices, they have 53 offices throughout Nova Scotia, virtually any community you want to name. There's a Nova Scotia Works office nearby, and people can go there to become job ready if they aren't. So help with interview skills, help with their CV, that kind of thing, but also understanding what programs exist to help people connect to work, and then also working with employers to help them understand what skill sets do they need, how do they go about seeking workers in Nova Scotia, and using the centre as a base for that. One of my favorite pathways, of course, is through apprenticeship, but also through skilled trades. There's a bright future for anyone out there, and I'm looking at you, MLA Sheehy Richard, because I know your daughter's a welder, I think. We need. Yeah, so we need skilled trades workers coming to Nova Scotia, and also for our youngsters to see a pathway to skilled trades here, because there's jobs in the skilled trades, and we need everybody to be out there promoting the skilled trades pathway as a pathway to a bright future, whether you're a newcomer, an immigrant, or a Nova Scotian looking for work in communities. So a broad range of responses, but at the end of the day, people will stay here if they're connected to work, and also then feel that sense of community, both in the workplace and outside of the workplace.
MLA Ritzy for a follow-up? We're good? Okay. I have MLA Hansen, then MLA Duali, then MLA Ince. So MLA Hansen, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I think all of this is absolutely wonderful, and I don't mean to make it sound like I'm going in a different direction, but I really feel like we're painting a picture that isn't completely accurate, and I need us to be able to speak some truths, because at the end of the day, in order for us to fix things, we need to know what's wrong, right? So my question is going to be to the YMCA, and not that it's wrong, but how can we adjust the way we do things and adapt in order for us to do it a better way so that we can keep people here and that we can make newcomers and folks feel safe when they're in their communities. Because I agree, in order for people to have a well-rounded feeling of being Nova Scotian, you have to, feel like you're connected to work, connected to community, and have a safe and welcoming home space to call your own. So my question is, growing the population requires access to housing, hospitals, public transit, and other public services and infrastructure. And to the YMCA, what are the biggest reasons that newcomers struggle in Nova Scotia?
Mr. Tharmaratnam?
I think for us, our role has always been kind of making sure that we are providing the newcomer voice at the table. So when we're talking about things like housing, transportation, healthcare, our role has always just been to make sure that we are able to come to the table, or we're able to bring the newcomers to the table to talk about their issues. These are things that are outside of kind of the things that we're dealing with on the day-to-day. But yeah, I'll pass that on if you want.
To Ms. Park?
So our settlement staff, they share the information on what's available to them in the community that include housing options and transportation, and help them to navigate and access those services and programs available to them. And also our staff is on the different tables and discussions so that, as Thivjan mentioned, that bring their perspective, so their voice is heard and their needs are reflected and while the decisions and discussions are happening. So to make sure that we're working as collaboratively to find a solution to help support the newcomers coming to Nova Scotia. The employers actually are part of the solution, so that they actually provide accommodation and place to stay to their employees. And then for the transportation, they organize transportation to and from to their work site. And sometimes that we had an experience that we organized group sessions, and then that was outside of the work hours, of course, and over the weekend. And then they provided the buses to pick them up so that they can go to the event that our settlement staff is organizing. So all these community members, and then that include employers, are part of the solution, and then trying to solve this problem together. And this is a collective work.
Thank you. Emily Hanson for a follow-up?
So I'm really glad to hear that, because I remember in your initial comments it was wraparound supports, which is exactly that, right? So how can the province learn from that when it comes to other newcomers or other families that come here, in order for them to have similar supports but not exhaust the YMCA to do all of that work? Because, I mean, I know you have a number of spaces, but at the same time, there's a lot of folks here across the province, and you guys are only one organization as of right now. And I know you work with other organizations, but I think, how can we as a government do better to do that work?
Mr. Tharmaratnam.
I think one of the great things about our relationship with the department is that we do have a strong collaborative relationship, and when these opportunities do come and we're able to kind of learn, we share feedback. And so I think there is a great roadmap already there. So it's just about expanding on it and working together to, create these collaborative networks to grow the collaborative networks across the province.
Ms. Park?
As you can see, that it's this Ukrainian initiative that all this government, the representative government together and trying to solve the problem on the same table. There was great examples of that. So that we somebody mentioned that I mean this. The quote a lot that is this Ukraine project that we're building a car while we are driving. So yes, that's how I feel. And then all these government organization and community partners come together to, on the same table to talk about in a common goal of supporting newcomers coming to Nova Scotia. That was very inspiring and encouraging to see. So I think that there will be more discussion happening for sure for the future. Yeah.
Thank you very much. MLA Dually.
First of all, thank you for coming, specifically for YMCA, the service that you provide for the community. My question is pertaining for the Deputy Minister. I'm excited as a newcomer, this ambitious idea of this province, but also I'm scared. And the reason I'm scared is 25,000 a year. That's a huge uptick. And I'm wondering if this ambition is being consulted and being included with this vision, organizations like YMCA or ISENS, because those are the organizations and the communities that you are rely on. So my question to you is, has been ever been consulted when this ambition and this vision was put in the table? So that would be my question.
Ms. Czapalay?
Thank you for the question. It's nice to see you. So 2 million by 2060, 25,000 people a year. Last year, we did grow our population by 30,000. So we exceeded the 25,000. We know that the key pillars of our population growth not only include attracting immigrants, but also attracting people from rest of Canada, and also retaining international students, and also retaining Nova Scotians. That's how we'll get to 25,000. It's not all immigrants, it's a mix. And so we're looking at all the levers that can be pulled and maximizing them. And of course, the Y and ISANS and our other 16 settlement associations are huge partners in that. And that's why we've undertaken a recent settlement review to see what new services are being requested of their settlement service providers. What are they seeing in communities throughout Nova Scotia in terms of the needs of newcomers? MLA Hanson did get to the heart of the matter when she mentioned about the need for flexible and responsive programs, and completely agree. Like our programs can't be static. They have to respond to what people are needing and requiring, and so we rely on them to provide us with that feedback. But we also have many other partners in all of this. So retaining youth, I've mentioned the apprenticeship piece. I've mentioned Nova Scotia Works in terms of helping connect people to work and work to people in communities throughout Nova Scotia. International student retention is a big opportunity here in Nova Scotia, and we support the Study and Stay program, which has a high rate of success for helping international students who want to stay in Nova Scotia connect to community and connect to jobs as they graduate. It's a mentoring program, essentially, that helps students who are international students be mentored by a company and ultimately find work here. It has over a 90% success rate in retention. So we're looking at all the levers and working with all partners to make sure that job one is to keep people here, regardless of where they come.
Emily Dwally for a follow-up?
I'm not sure if you answered my question, and my question was a direct question, and was has been consulted with organizations like YMCA before this plan was put in place. What I understood your answer was it's not, your vision is not only immigrants. It's a multiply vision. But what I'm interested in is, since you're relying on organizations like YMCA, did you consult it with this vision? Because they are the one who's taking the load. And if that's not the case, I will urge the department to include those organizations with your vision, because they are the one eventually who will take the load. And my question is, I'd like to see this to succeed. And if this kind of consultation and this kind of collaboration is not taking place, I see failure. So I hope that will be the case, and I'd like to see that it's happening.
Ms. Lesperance?
Thank you for the question. I appreciate your questions today. So the answer is that yes, we have consulted in several ways. So also mentioned today was the Auditor General report that recently came out. The Auditor General feels as though maybe we've consulted too much, that we really emphasized the needs of settlement, and we've seen it through the eyes of our settlement organizations so much that we also needed to really get that provincial perspective ourselves, which is why we undertook the settlement review. So the settlement review is a bit more balanced in the sense of we've also consulted, again, the settlement organizations, but also consulted newcomers and other people in the community to make sure that we have that balanced view of what those needs are, especially considering the growth that we are about to undertake. We've talked a lot about the Ukraine initiative today, and not only specifically because of the support for Ukraine newcomers, but also just because of what it represents. The federal government has shown the model that we have to the rest of Canada to say that it is one of the best in Canada in terms of the response that we've had. And one of the comments that we've heard from the federal government is that partnerships aren't made in crisis. So one of the reasons that we were able to respond as well as we could is because of the partners that we had with settlement organizations, and those partnerships weren't made when they were needed the most. They were made before that. So we do rely quite heavily on the insights of those settlement organizations. And another way in which we consult is we do a request for proposals for funding for settlement organizations. That request is out right now. So settlement organizations can also formally tell us, here's what we need to support not only what we're seeing now, but also the growth intended for the future.
Thank you very much. MLA Ince, and then MLA Sheehy Richard. MLA Ince.
Thank you. This question is for the department. I understand that you currently have 6 navigators in the province. Given the needs and the increase that we're looking at in terms of people coming, will the department, or I shouldn't say will the department, what are the needs of the department in terms of increasing the staff capacity to meet the needs of the newcomers coming?
Ms. Czapalay?
Thank you very much. And certainly we have a sharp eye on what we need as a department and a branch to manage the growth in our population. Specifically to the navigators, we have 6 navigators. They're based throughout Nova Scotia. They currently have had over 900 inquiries. So just to backtrack a moment, the navigator's role is to provide a personal touch. Once people take a look at our Live in Nova Scotia website, they see our ads, our billboards, our radio clips, whatever, and they make the decision, I think I better look at this a little more closely, then we want to attach them to a person rather than have them bounce around between websites. And so they connect with a community navigator who's in a position to say, there are job opportunities here that meet your interest. If you're asking about what a community is like, we have connections to all kinds of community partners. Here's what it's like to live in this community. And so our navigators are not operating in isolation. They're operating as part of a larger ecosystem of chambers of commerce, the regional enterprise networks, probably the local MLA offices. They're part of a whole group of people within communities that are trying to help people settle well. And so looking at the navigators, we're really pleased with the work they're doing. We really see that personal approach is paying off. So I mentioned the numbers, but we also hear anecdotally, people are writing in to thank us and to thank the navigators for helping connect them to communities. And so we do feel as though that navigator approach, that personal touch, helps differentiate ourselves perhaps from other jurisdictions as well. And we do see that role continuing. In terms of the volume, we're monitoring that, and we'll be letting government know if we need to increase the number of navigators in order to respond to the volume. But right now, we feel that the 6 navigators are handling the work, especially because they're part of a larger ecosystem. Many of them are co-located, for instance, within a regional enterprise network, so they have access to a wider array of supports and services.
Millions for a follow-up?
Speaking about the rural areas and the navigators and so on, what is being done to address the non-traditional jobs or the industry requirements in the rural areas? To give you an example, are we looking at, in those rural areas, IT? You know, some of those areas that are mostly in the urban, but because we have to look at the rural areas now.
Ms. Czapalay?
So the nature of our campaign is oriented towards skilled trades and healthcare workers. But even though if those are the primary people making inquiries, they often have a partner or expanded family, and they're looking for other opportunities too. And so people are saying, you know, I'm a welder, but my partner is interested in IT. The beauty of some of the IT jobs is that they are remote jobs, so people can come with their job. And many of you will recall we did have a remote worker campaign for a while, and it's kind of blended into our Live in Nova Scotia campaign, because what we're really promoting with the Live in Nova Scotia campaign is that the work-life balance that you can have here. And so for digital jobs, if people bring a job with them, that's great. If a community identifies an IT job, the best way that they can connect to employers is through our Nova Scotia Works office, by letting the Nova Scotia Works office know that they have jobs in the IT sector, and that puts that information into the system. And so our navigators will then become aware that, oh, there's IT jobs in this area, and when they get inquiries, they can then connect people with that opportunity.
Thank you very much. MLA Sheehy Richard.
Thank you. I'm going to take a minute to elaborate on the opportunity of my son, because it is really a feel-good story. In 2017, he was in NSCC to take power engineering. Before he even graduated, he was offered a job in Windsor, 5 minutes from his home, which is incredible. Since then, he's left that job, turned down 4 other jobs, and is waiting any day now to have an internal position with Capital Health. So he is working currently at our Hants Community Hospital locally, as well as Cobequid under the same manager. He also went from his 3rd class when he graduated, had a really hard time passing the provincial portion, gained the skill base in the employer he had. They gave him ample opportunities to work his way up and study. He's now 3rd class, and he's joining the apprenticeship program to work towards his 2nd class. So, you know, that's a really feel-good story, and of course a proud mom moment to brag about that work that's being done for our youth. He's 23 years old and probably will stay and work and have family here. So it makes mom happy. And even better, when he files his income tax this year, he's going to have a pretty significant chunk of change that he can put towards, you know, eventually moving out of our basement that we're turning into our in-law suite for him, and get into a house. But we're working on that as well. So, you know, the future is bright for the skilled trades. I know other members have brought it in, but enough of my bragging and being proud for a minute, but I want to talk a bit about credentialing, because I know as an MLA, I'm constantly like, why can't you get these healthcare workers working faster? Why can't you get these apprentice, you know, these people working in trades? Why can't we get them? So I guess in that area, that comes up with a lot, you know, it comes up a lot through immigration. And I just was wondering, what kind of supports do we have to navigate those newcomers so that they can get the credentialing that is recognized, so that they can, for example, work in our hospitals and our long-term care facilities and everywhere else where they're needed. Thank you.
Ms. Czapalay.
I have to jump in here and congratulate your son. I'm congratulating him on his resilience. A lot of young people need to build that skill, and it sounds like he's acquired that early, which bodes well for you and your in-law suite. So we do want to also, when we attract newcomers to Nova Scotia, whether they're immigrants or whether they're from rest of Canada, we want to make sure that they are well employed according to their experience and their skills. And so we do have a wide range of programs that are in play right now to help people navigate through that regulatory process, regardless of whether they're a chartered accountant or a healthcare worker. And so I'll just ask my colleague Jen Lesperance to highlight a few of those programs.
Ms. Lesperance?
Thank you. And I'm sure Y-Reach will have a comment after myself as well. But yes, it's definitely top of mind for us to make sure that people who are arriving are able to have meaningful work and work in their field of study. We support individuals who have that job offer. So they are coming with a job offer, but sometimes they want to upgrade their skills or bridge to something else. Or it could be their spouse that is interested in a particular occupation that needs some additional support. Specifically, I'll talk to a couple of programs at ISANS. The deputy already spoke about the trades practical assessment, which is a really fantastic one supported by our apprenticeship agency. They also have several bridging programs for financial services, architects, engineers, nurses, and some of them are the hard qualification skills, and others are that networking, the making those connections, and language skills. I think the language can't be understated. There are specific language requirements for most licensed occupations, and most of the time it's for very good reason. We want people to be in a workplace where they can fully function in the first language of the clients that they are serving, and sometimes there are occupational health and safety considerations as well to make sure that we're putting, if a cook is in a kitchen, we want to make sure that they can communicate with the other people so that no one gets hurt in that kitchen. So there are really good reasons for a lot of these qualification requirements, and settlement organizations are really well positioned to be able to help support people with their language and other qualifications. And we also work really closely with the regulatory bodies to make sure that those qualifications are up to date with what's reasonable to expect and what's really needed in that workplace.
Mr. Tharmaratnam.
Yeah, and I think from our perspective, what we noticed with the credentialing piece has been that whether it's a support with the language side of things or whether it's supporting the individual in their rural community trying to access the credentialing body, which may be located in Halifax. So we know that is a need with some of the populations that we serve, and we're going to be looking for increasing that support and to meet the demand in the upcoming call for proposals with the department. So it's great to hear.
Ms. Park, would you like to answer?
So when we work with the newcomers, that we usually settlement staff does a little bit basic like a needs assessment and find out what their needs are and then what the skills are. So based on that, we do provide either direct services to them or connecting to the services and programs available. Then one of the part of we work with partners like iSense is the credential recognition. So we report to our client to the either engineering program or nurses program or accountants program, so that they have the information and then they can access those programs. Also, we work with, there's a lot of other initiatives happening. The World Education System, that program is available, that's a credential recognition. So we, staff is current with the information and trends, what's happening at the sector, and then provide that information so that it can provide the timely, appropriate resources and information to the newcomers we serve. I know that has been a lot of great initiative happening, Department of Health and then Health Association of Nova Scotia to, reduce barriers for the newcomers to the pathway to those credential recognition. So that I think that excited to see those kind of great conversations and initiatives happening.
Thank you very much. I have MLA Young, then MLA Hanson. So MLA Young, next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's funny, as we could hear that jackhammering before, I was thinking good paying jobs come to Nova Scotia. I don't know. Trades, yeah, that's it. A lowest employment 50 years. I'm just wondering if you could, and you talked a bit about it, but if you can tell me a bit more about inter-provincial migration to Nova Scotia, perhaps regarding credentialing or what work may be being done to ensure a smooth transition to the province, and I'll throw that out.
Ms. Czapalay?
Yeah, thank you for the question, and certainly, actually, it was going through my mind as I was listening to Inhae response that one of the things that we do, regardless of the occupation or the sector, is we're very aware of what other jurisdictions are doing across Canada, so that what we do here is consistent. And thinking of apprenticeship, somehow I always think of that when I look at you, but making sure that our apprenticeship requirements from trade to trade are consistent with across Canada. Trade mobility is a top priority, and people who have a trade are finding it very mobile now to move from one jurisdiction to another with their trade intact. But I'll just see if one of my colleagues wants to respond as well.
Ms. Lesperance?
Sure. So we've seen really great success with net inter-provincial migration. So not only are we attracting many more people here, less people are leaving as well. So a really fantastic situation there. Our branch, Immigration and Population Growth, that was one of the main changes that we now have, not only immigration, but also population growth, which includes attracting people from the rest of Canada. We've recently released a Francophone population growth action plan to attract Francophone people from the rest of Canada. And if you look at some of those skills that might be difficult to attract internationally, such as French teachers, so teacher credentialing, we're able to do that with French teachers from the rest of the world, but if they're already working in Canada as a French teacher, they can more easily come into our schools and work as a French teacher here. So having that plan to be very targeted and intentional about our attraction for the rest of Canada and targeted to those skills that make the credentialing even easier to work in Nova Scotia is a really exciting place to be, and we're seeing lots of great success with it.
Ms. Park?
So I want to add one other great examples of that, I guess, the inter-provincial migration is that the SPER program. How this program started is that, and our staff on across the province work very closely with this long-term care facility, CCAs mostly. And then I noticed that, so that's how I noticed. So I reached out to one of the employers who has multiple locations across the province where our settlement staff is located, and trying to find out what the needs are and then how we can work together. And in that meeting, they identified that they do a lot of recruitment that in other provinces, mostly from the Ontario, that they bring a lot of the international graduate nurses to either study at the local college, and then they'll go there, recruit those people to come to work in Nova Scotia. And then so in that meeting that the employer identified the language needs, and they have great language skills. However, that they have, there's English need to be improved to have more workplace communication, and then they have a hard time of the meeting their going toward to improve their the career goals, as well as the settlement needs. So those are things identified. So I told the employers, let's work together to on that, because we do have a language instruction, and we do have a settlement staff at those locations, and how we can do those, how we can work together, support your employees. And that's how we started the SPED program. And then the program includes curriculum design together. We partnership include the curriculum design with the subject matter expertise from that organization, and scheduling of workplace learning, as well as project evaluation. So we just started with a pilot project, and there was supported by the IPG, and it was a great success, and evaluation was fantastic. So that's why we're able to keep supporting these folks coming from other provinces to Nova Scotia.
Thank you very much. MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we talked earlier, or there was a mention earlier, about long-term care and CCAs, and our immigration framework has been linked to the recruitment strategy on long-term care in order to deliver the reform process that we need to have people here in those professions. I'm just going to read a little piece on foreign workers through provincial nominee programs. Over the last 20 years have increased Nova Scotia's immigration rates. However, Nova Scotia's most recently calculated 5-year retention rate, 65% for immigrants, remains lower than every other jurisdiction outside of Atlantic Canada and below the national average. 10 economic immigrants have the lowest retention rate, whereas the rate is slightly higher for refugees. So all of this, there's a lot of compounding factors within Nova Scotia, such as healthcare, labor, casualization, lack of mandated long-term care staffing levels, high cost of living, low pay, and benefits, and minimal settlement infrastructures, because we know that we have a housing crisis and a healthcare situation. And taking all these together, these issues point to the likelihood that immigrant CCAs in Nova Scotia will struggle to build long-term viable careers in the province, and they may not stay, which we have seen folks have moved on to other professions. We were very pleased to see that there was an increase in the pay standards, but I hear consistently from CCAs that turnover in their workplace is incredibly high, and it impacts quality care and workplace safety. So what is the department doing to improve working conditions in the healthcare professions that immigrants in Nova Scotia are entering?
Ms. Lesperance?
Thank you so much. I'm thinking about different parts to respond to, but of course, first of all, retention. We've had recent retention numbers come out. Our 1-year retention rate has increased by 4%. So we're at 77% now for our 1-year retention rate. We still have aspirations to get higher in terms of our longer-term retention rate. So I appreciate that comment. It's definitely a priority of ours, and that's why we're supporting the settlement supports that we are. Also involved in retention is ensuring that we're attracting people that the skills that we need and that they can find meaningful work and want to stay in their workplaces, as you've suggested. We recently had a fantastic success with recruiting skilled refugees. So we've partnered with the Health Association of Nova Scotia, but specific employers especially, to find this untapped resources. Refugees in particular countries such as Kenya do not have the ability to work legally there. However, they're very well trained and are looking for a place to call home with their families, and we're able to provide that here in Nova Scotia. So recently in Kenya, we made 65 conditional job offers to continuing care assistants, and we're partnering with employers such as McLeod Group, who is actually looking at not only providing a job, but they're hiring 2 settlement workers themselves to provide the settlement support at that workplace. They are providing accommodations for the families who are arriving. They traveled to Kenya, met with candidates, talked to non-for-profit organizations to really understand the types of supports that people will need once they get here so that they can settle well for the long term with them and their family. So it's the type of wraparound supports that we need to think not only just about the job offer, and yes, the wages do help. Good wages, not only for the candidate, but also for the family, has been a fantastic advancement for continuing care assistance, but also making sure that all those wraparound supports for the candidate and their family are in place, and it's individual to the candidate that's arriving. It's not a one-size-fits-all for any newcomer who's arriving.
MLA Hanson for a follow-up?
So, I mean, that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear all of that. I really am. The other piece of that is, like, we know that the employment is, I mean, the newcomer status is attached to employment. So when you are in a situation where your employer is abusing you as an employer, I mean, as an employee, that may change your status if you leave that job, right? So, how is the government working on that part if that is a situation that employees are facing? Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Lesperance.
Thank you for the question. It is a great concern of ours. We want to make sure that people feel safe to be themselves, to work in an environment that is safe for them. If we're talking about permanent residents, they have all the labor mobility as anyone else. But often our candidates are arriving on temporary work permits that are specific to the employer. We've completed 100 webinars this year to talk to employers about how to onboard candidates, how to work with the immigration programming. The Atlantic Immigration Program has been a really fantastic asset. When it became a permanent program, we introduced mandatory intercultural competency training to make sure that employers have this training before they are able to recruit any newcomers to come to their workplaces. We've also advanced our compliance and investigations unit, where we go to employers and we say, how is it going? And we interview newcomers. And we say, how is it going? And we educate them on their rights. We have a labor, now that we're also a part of Labor Skills and Immigration, our Labor Standards Division is right in our office. So we're able to talk to them about how to best communicate to newcomers about their employer rights. We know that when newcomers come, the job opportunity doesn't always work out. It can be like anyone else starting a new job. It may not be a best fit. And so if it's not, we now provide 60 days for that individual to find new employment and still maintain their nomination with the province and the federal government so they're not penalized. And when I say 60 days, I mean 60 days. You know, we're as facilitative as possible to make sure that the newcomer is not penalized. And truthfully, that the employer is the one that needs to think a little bit more as to whether or not their workplace was the right place for not only that newcomer, but more newcomers who are coming to work with them. But we're as facilitative as possible with those candidates that want to move on to a new employer. And luckily, there are many employment opportunities right now where they can find.
Thank you. MLA Sheehy Richard.
Well, that made my ears burn a little bit because that's what I was wondering was basically what are employers saying about these programs, like typically, generally speaking, or maybe could you give me some examples?
Ms. Lesperance?
Now that we are 1 year into our Atlantic Immigration Program, and we've now designated about 700 employers under our Atlantic Immigration Program. In 5 years, we designated about 1,500 employers under the Atlantic Immigration Pilot, and we already have more than 700 under the program in less than a year. We have been interested to know about that intercultural competency training. Truthfully, we're a little bit concerned about creating one more step for employers. We don't want to provide any processing or any more time to employers than necessary, but we really felt that this was a very important piece. And we're hearing only positive feedback. So we're not hearing, why do I have to spend so much of my time in this training? We're hearing, thank you so much. I know it's only myself as the hiring manager that needs to take it, but can I bring more staff as well? Because more of them want to take it. And actually, the Y helps to facilitate that training, so they might have more to say. But they're asking about expanded services to make sure that their workplace is the best suited for newcomers. It feels like a real changing time right now where people want to do this well. They don't only want to do it, they don't only want to hire newcomers and find the labor that they need, but they really want to support their staff well. And they're looking to our settlement organizations and the province to do that. And so maybe Inhae can speak.
Ms. Park?
So yes, as an YMCA, we as a settlement organization, we do provide the intercultural competence training to the employers outside of HRM. So since January, I think that we did close to 300 employers participating in that training, and it's going really well. And feedback has been very, very positive. And employers really engaged the session that have a discussion about how they can create more welcoming workplace for the newcomer employee. And then they did a very practical exercise, and then what can do when they go back to their workplace and some of the things they can do. And then the people who are taking those training is in a managerial role, who has a decision maker, so that they can go and then make changes in their workplace. So it is a mandatory training for the employers. However, the employers are really engaged in a settlement process of newcomers. We see more and more. And I've been in the settlement sector for a long time, but more than ever, that a lot of committee members, including employers, is part of the settlement support that we provide to the newcomers to Nova Scotia, which is fantastic. And so we could see the great success and great feedback, and then we continue to do so.
Thank you very much. I have, did you have a follow-up? Okay. I have MLA Diwali, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering, I've been seeing maybe last 10 years statistics of immigration for Nova Scotia, but I was wondering if we have any numbers within the department, immigration versus migration, and there's a differences. Is there any numbers that exist?
Ms. Czapalay.
Thank you very much. And so, MLA Diwali, you'll be aware that our immigration numbers continue to track upwards. We're on track for another record year for landings. Last year was a record year. In 2021, our total landings, that's the number of immigrants who arrived here in Nova Scotia, was 9,160. In 2022 so far, and this is as of September, it goes on a January to December year in terms of tracking. As of September, we had 10,670 landings. So that's what I meant in public accounts when I said we're on track for a record year after a record year in terms of immigrant landings. In terms of, do we have the newcomer numbers with us from the rest of Canada?
This is it here.
Okay. Okay, so we had, so in 2021, and I can file these numbers later if you want, our in-migration from rest of Canada was 20,484. That same year, we had 10,535 Nova Scotians leave. So the net income was 9,949. So this year, our net migration is 14,079. And I'm really pleased to emphasize that the majority are youth. Our actual age in Nova Scotia is declining now. So we can't claim to be an aging province anymore. It really was. It was a thrill for us when Statistics Canada announced that our average age is declining, and it's declining because of in-migration, and it's declining because immigrants are typically younger than the average age of a Nova Scotian. So we go back to 2013, 2014. We have a lot of statistics to share.
I did one more stat if I could.
Jen has more numbers to share.
Ms. Esperance.
Thank you. A number I keep a close eye on as well is our rural immigration. Traditionally, immigrants come to urban cities. So we've had a really concerted effort over the last couple of years to make sure that we are migrating more newcomers to rural areas. The Atlantic Immigration Program has been a real asset for that. So in the Atlantic Immigration's pilot, 35% of endorsements, so candidates, were going outside of HRM. And that is in comparison to traditionally about 82% of people come to Halifax. And so even in the permanent program, we're actually this year at 50-50. 50% are going to rural areas and 50% are coming to Halifax, specifically for HRM, because it's employer-driven. Sorry, specifically for the Atlantic Immigration Program. Because it's employer-driven, there are more rural employers engaged because of our engagement that we're doing with our team of employers in the rural areas, and then more people are being attracted to those areas.
Thank you. MLA Duale for a follow-up.
Yeah, quite honest. The reason I'm asking this question is I'm very optimistic this vision, and it's one of the things that I'm in favor. And my intention is to see this to succeed and to become fruitful for the next generation of Nova Scotians. But also within my question, I'm wondering those migrations. Do we have a picture of exactly what part of the Canada they're coming from? What kind of trade skills are they bringing in Nova Scotia? What makes them interesting to come to Nova Scotia? And the reason I'm digging all these questions is it will give us a real picture where we're heading and what we are missing. And without number, you cannot go nowhere. And that's why I'm interested to see all these numbers being in place in order us to look 5 years from now to say where we were, what we have accomplished. So, and I'm happy to hear this great news of having youth coming back here. And those are the things that I really believe will make this vision successful. So please, if you can, to just elaborate who are these people and what makes them to come Nova Scotia. Thank you.
Ms. Czapalay.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for mentioning your commitment to ensuring our population growth succeeds. For sure, all of us need to lock arms and make sure that the people who choose to come here feel welcome and feel well settled. In terms of newcomers from rest of Canada, I mentioned our marketing campaign, so perhaps I'll start there. Our marketing campaign specifically targets skilled trades workers and healthcare workers. And so we know that those workers are responding because of, anecdotally, we know that they're coming here and settling. They're telling us. Our borders are open so people can come in and leave freely. And so one of the ways that we're looking at surveying people coming from rest of Canada is that when they apply for their health card, we can ask them a few questions about who they are and how they settled here. But also newcomers are welcome to reach out to people within the community, Y and others, and so they'll be able to report back to us on exactly who's coming. Jen, did you want to? Maybe I'll ask the Y if they can provide you with some specifics.
Mr. Tharmaratnam?
I think more than specific when you're asking about who's coming, it's right here. I mean, to be honest, like I grew up in Ontario, and when I, as a younger individual, when we were looking at opportunities beyond the lifestyle of Nova Scotia, it is the opportunity in Nova Scotia, the opportunity to thrive, and that is what's attracting. And I know just anecdotally from living in New Glasgow and speaking to a ton of people who were like myself, who were between the age bracket of 25 and 45, who had moved and settled in that region over the last 3 years. The big thing that I can say is that the people here are welcoming, the lifestyle is great, but the opportunity that you get here, especially when you're talking about the opportunities in places like Toronto or BC or Ontario, there is immense potential, and that's why they're coming here. That's why I chose to come here, and I think that's why a lot of people. Those may not be the facts, but I think that's the anecdotal stories.
Ms. Park.
And we have examples of newcomers actually settled in Nova Scotia first, and then, always think that grass is greener, so that, move to the bigger provinces like Toronto or Alberta. And then they move back, actually. And then they thought that, they get a lot of, welcoming, because the people are very welcoming here, they like it here, but they move back and move to the other provinces, and they didn't get the same kind of support that they had before, or they didn't feel very welcome. So we see the people moving back, and then coming here. And then as YMCA, we support, again, we mentioned that we support the family as a unit, and then we support the children and youth. So that is our niche, and then that we have been working with the newcomer children and youth, and then for a long time, and then they have a very different, unique settlement needs from different from their parents, and So that is our commitment to supporting this, understanding the settlement needs of children and youth, and supporting this population is our passion, is our areas of strength, and is our commitment, and is a foundation to our mission of building healthy communities through power belonging. And they are, the children and youth, are the future generation workforce. So that for us, doing that job is building future workforce in Nova Scotia, and we are very proud of that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. MLA Ince, with just over 2 minutes, in the interest of time, this will probably be our last question, and we want to be able to give our guests the opportunity to give some closing statements. So, MLA Ince.
Great. Thank you so much. The one thing I haven't heard much about, and we're talking about growing our province, we're talking about you've mentioned a bit about Francophone. My question is this. What is being done or what conversations are being had with those Francophone-speaking individuals from the continent, from African countries?
Ms. Czapalay?
Well, thank you for the question, and we're really proud of our Francophone immigration and population growth strategy, and we worked with the community here in Nova Scotia to develop a strategy that everyone has agreed to, and one of the first things that we did once the strategy was made public is Jen and her team had a immigration draw focusing on Francophones, and 150 people were issued letters of invitation. And then we quickly followed up with a trip to Morocco. And we really had a lot of very skilled people seeking to move to Nova Scotia. And they spoke Arabic, French, and English. And everyone from, as Jen mentioned, French teachers to healthcare workers to early childhood educators, a wide range of talent. So in the past year, we've done 22 different marketing missions looking at the potential immigrants, and certainly have a focus on achieving our goals in our Francophone immigration and population growth strategy. And Jen also mentioned the 100 webinars that we've done the past year, helping both newcomers and potential newcomers and also employers understand the various immigration pathways to coming here. So it's a multi-pronged approach, but I have every confidence that we will definitely meet the goals that are expressed in the Francophone immigration and population growth strategy, and we'll see our Francophone communities throughout Nova Scotia thriving with the newcomers that will be here.
Thank you, Ms. Czapalay. And the time for our questions and answers has come to an end. We'd like to give our guests an opportunity to give some closing statements, if you'd like. So maybe I can go in reverse order this time. Mr. Tharmaratnam.
First of all, thank you, everyone, for having us here today. And hopefully you learned a little bit more about some of the settlement programs that the Y has to offer. When we're talking about connecting newcomers to the workforce, I hope you realize it does come down to the retention and the contribution and the participation of not just the individual, but their families. And that has been our mission. That has been what we do well at the YMCA. And we hope to continue to do that going forward. Thank you.
Ms. Park?
So I like to finish with this quote that I like, is that diversity is a fact, and equity is a goal, and inclusion is a practice. So the diversity has become more and more the fact in our community, and the landscape of community changing. I came as an immigrant myself, and I've seen that a lot of different faces on the street, and that makes me excited. And then when I came here, I didn't see a lot of immigrants on the street, and people are staring me. But now I think that people just see me as a normal. I wouldn't say normal, but just the citizen on the street, right? So diversity is becoming more and more the fact that the fabric of our society, and what we do is very important to provide the support they need and do the more welcoming and inclusive province so that people will stay. As employment is a factor of attraction, but settlement and integration is a factor of retention.
Thank you, Ms. Park. I think a lot of us are going to look up the Hansard to get those quotes that you were saying. It was very, very good. Ms. Czapalay.
Thank you very much for the invitation to be here today and for the great questions and the interest in this topic. And for sure, getting to 2 million people by 2060 will be a collaborative effort. It will require all of us, and it will require our settlement providers, it will require our community partners, our employers, all of us to lean in and do the work that we need to do to help people settle well, to help them feel welcome, and to help them stay here in Nova Scotia. And so I just want to say that our focus is not to just set up programs and say, there, we've done that. Our focus is to be flexible and nimble and to respond to whatever the situation is that arises. So if we have Ukrainians suddenly needing a home here in Nova Scotia, we want to be nimble and respond to that. If we have an opportunity to retain more international students, we want to do that and be nimble in doing that. Working with community partners to help welcome immigrants, to help welcome newcomers from rest of Canada. All of those things are what will help us get to 2 million by 2060. So it's a collaborative effort, and so far we're on track. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lesperance? Okay. So on behalf of our committee and the millions that have watched today, no, I don't. We want to thank you all for coming. Thank you to our guests for coming today. We do have just a small bit of committee business to attend to. Our meeting is over at 11, so we will ask you now if you'd like to be excused. Thank you for coming today. Appreciate it. Thank you. We'll take a 2-minute break just to allow our guests to leave. Order. Could I please ask our committee members to please come back to the table?
You notice I'm sitting here.
Thank you, Tony. There is we've covered most of our committee business at the beginning of the meeting, but just to announce that our next meeting will be on January 31st, 2023. Can you imagine? From 10 a.m. to 12 noon. So questions will be over at 2:45 again. Oh, sorry about that. And our witnesses that day will be from the Department of Labor, Skills and Immigration, Department of Public Works, Nova Scotia Community College, and the Apprenticeship Board. And the topic will be skilled labor shortages and impact on critical infrastructure in Nova Scotia. Is there any other discussion, any other business at all we need to attend to? Okay, seeing no further business, I adjourn. This meeting is now over. All right, happy holidays. Thank you. Yes.